everybody, and welcome to the Sports Box, where the only opinion that matters, damn it, is right here. I am Mike Galetta, a.k.a. Hammonton Mike, with Jim, Jukebox Santora today. Jim, thanks for coming out today.
It's my pleasure, Mike. Always good to hang out with you here and at the Sports Box.
Absolutely, where dreams happen. That's where I remember that. We're doing our Major League Special today. We're going to start with the American League first, break down some teams for you, go division by division. And, got Jim here just to give his opinion. We're going to start with the lovely New York Yankees, who at the beginning of the year started off a little sluggish, but have picked up the pace dramatically. Jim, I got to tell you, with Mark Teixeira, 14 home runs, Carlos Beltran hitting 12 doubles right now, Slade Heathcott, 353 batting average, and A-Rod even 11 home runs. This team, from top to bottom right now, is playing really well.
Well, I mean, given that it's New York, they got the short porch and stuff, so yeah, these guys are going to hit home runs. But really, at the end of the day, what are they going to do for the long haul? It's May. I know we're going to talk about some of these other teams here also.
Right.
But, I mean, you could take any of these teams in the American League East and pretty much just draw one out of a hat, and that may be your American League East winner, because I don't think that there's any one team in that group that is going to be the one that's going to pull out. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be just a drag out, knockout thing all the way through. The Yankees got good players, and they got a lot of potential. But can they do it for the full run? Can they get to the end of September and keep it going all the way through?
An aging team with some power for now, like Jim says, early in the season. Let's see what the Yankees can do. We also got Michael Pineda coming over from Seattle a couple years ago, thinking, injuries, this and that. He started to come on playing his own. He's got 6 wins, as long as he stays away from Vaseline. I think he'll be
exactly,
all right. CC Sabathia, kind of struggling. 2 wins out of the chute. I mean, you want to think that he'll pick it up. And you got Andrew Miller with 14 saves so far. So, for what it looks like, for what it's worth, Yankee fans out there, Yankees rolling along right now for the time being. In second place in that division, we're going to talk about Baltimore. Baltimore, Chris Davis, 11 home runs. You got Manny Machado, 11 stolen bases right now, which is pretty good for him. Adam Jones, again, solid year, 313. And you got Delman Young, 295, and Jim Pardidis, 343. Actually, if you look at the Orioles roster, from top to bottom, very balanced team.
They're a very good hitting team. I think Adam Jones, every year the guy kind of gives you MVP-like numbers. Definitely an all-star every year. He's kind of the core of that team.
Yep.
I think Chris Davis is also going to be another guy that's going to be last year just an absolute awful year. Especially with the PED thing, that with the suspension and all that stuff. But seems like he's bounced back from that. I think if those guys are key, because I think with those 2 guys doing what they're doing, the other guys are going to be in a position to continue and basic's the bats will be there and they're going to score some runs.
Yep. And you look at their pitching staff right now. Miguel Gonzalez leading the team with 5 wins right now. And also Zach Britton with 12 saves. The Orioles, they're a funny team. They're not that old of a team. They do have some wily veterans on there, but I think for the most part they're a young team. And I think they can challenge the Yankees and get back to what they were in the past. We're going to go to the Toronto Blue Jays now, sitting in 3rd place right now. And here's a team that some of the guys on this team has underperformed. You want to talk about coming over from Seattle, Justin Smoke, even though he's batting 258, big slump right now going on. Jose Bautista, batting 230, not even close to the home runs pace he had last year going on. But Josh Donaldson carrying the load for them right now, 13 homers and 13 doubles right now. And along with Russell Martin, big surprise there at catcher. Russell Martin, here's a guy who's been around the league, wily veteran in the league, still batting 273 and 15. I can't read my own writing here. We'll skip that. Russell Martin playing well.
Well, Russell Martin, another thing, when you look, the guy gets on base. And I think one of the notes that I saw was, even though he's only hitting about 260 right now, but his on base is about 350. And last year when he was playing for the Pirates, he was absolutely getting on base all the time. I think he had an on base near 400. So, he's definitely a guy that when he gets hot, he's going to be another person to add some damage there. Donaldson, we knew he was a good player.
Yep.
Great addition for Toronto. But yeah, these guys are they're kind of all over the place, and their pitching staff is kind of all over the place too.
Yeah.
So can they get it all together and kind of make a run? I think they can, but eventually, again, that window at some point closes, and then either they get it all together at some point, or come by the All-Star break. They're kind of one of those teams that every year they have a chance, and then they teeter one way or the other.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the last couple of years it's been the other. So.
Yeah, even though Toronto lost 2 pitchers this year, they definitely got to start swinging the bat. Donaldson's not going to get in there by himself. You got Ari Dickey, who's gone south so far. He's got a miserable 5.77 ERA.
Yeah.
But Mark Burley does have 5 wins. So like we said, they had 2 pitchers down, but they really got to start swinging the bat. So let's see what Toronto does. Let's go to Tampa Bay Rays. Got to be politically correct.
Can't go old school here.
Exactly, can't go old school. An old school guy. The Rays, we've heard for years Evan Longoria, that story, but the Rays have some guys coming out there. Jake Elmore, 348 batting average. You got Steven Souza Jr., 7 home runs, and even Longoria, obviously, with 284 batting average. But here's a team that I don't think they have an identity either. They don't know if they want to go young or just build some veterans or what direction they're heading in.
Yeah, I mean they've always been kind of a strange team.
Yeah.
I mean, but when they had Joe Madden as a manager, he was a guy that got that team to win, and they were ready to play all the time. One of the surprises right now is a guy like David DeJesus, who's hitting about 320, 330, somewhere around there. So he's definitely a surprise because he's an aging guy. He's about 36, but he's out there. Rene Rivera is a catcher that I think when they were making those trades, like when the Will Myers trade, I think he was a guy they were looking at as an everyday catcher. I think for a few years here, they've been struggling at that position, especially to find a catcher that can hit. Defensively, the guy is a good defensive catcher, but they've always seemed to have a problem that way as well. But they're another team that's kind of on that fence. They're kind of like Toronto, where we're not quite sure which way they're going to go. So.
Yeah, and you got Brad Boxberger. Excuse me. 13 saves this year is pretty good for them, and Chris Archer with 5 wins. But he's got 4 losses, so that just shows you the pitching staff there. And it's another fun fact about Tampa is you'd think Tampa would draw, being they have minor league baseball and everything. They're at home right now. They're drawing 14,000 people right now, lowest in the league, which is unbelievably horrible. And speaking of horrible, let's talk about the Boston Red Sox. How south have they gone so far? I mean, you look at the roster, you're kind of confused a little bit because you have Haley Ramirez hitting 10 home runs. You got Brock Holt hitting 305. You have some other guys in there. Jeff Blanchini actually playing well. But then you look at the other side of the fence, you got Xander Bogaerts, only 3 triples, and you got Mike Napoli coming over from one of his days in Texas. We bet a miserable 208. So it's hard to see where Boston's going to go anyway because they've traded away a lot of guys and they really haven't picked up anybody.
And let's not forget they got Pablo Sandoval.
Yeah.
I thought Sandoval. I mean, he's definitely underperformed as well.
Correct, from his years in San Francisco.
Yeah,
correct.
and I mean, they're a team that. Last year they really had their struggles, and they started bringing in different players. They get a Sandoval, they get Wade Miley, they get Porcello. So they brought all these guys in, with the young guys that they have on this team, and figuring, hey, we can kind of climb back in here again. Another team, as I said, you can take any one of these teams, and they may bounce back. Right now it doesn't look good because if you look at the standings right now, they're on they've lost the last 3 games. They're 3-7 in their last 10, so it's not really looking good for them. But that's not to say they can turn around and pull off 6-7 wins in a row.
Right, absolutely. So that's your American League East right now. Let's go to the American League Central. Start off with the Kansas City Royals. Kansas City actually, you think of the Royals, you think of the bad teams of the past, but the Royals aren't anybody's doormat anymore. They're actually a good team, up and coming team. Even though with the loss of Billy Butler, aging guy, they had to get rid of what they had to get rid of. You got Alex Gordon batting 260. You got Paulio Orlando batting 275 with 5 triples. Kendry Morales, I didn't understand why Seattle let him go. They're probably kicking themselves now. He's batting 306 with 15 doubles. You got Mike Moustakas with 329 batting average, and Eric Hosmer
Hosmer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hosmer with 7 home runs. And actually, if you look at that roster and what I went through, again, another balanced team up top again.
I think the difference between Kansas City, the Kansas City of old, and the Kansas City that we saw that was in the World Series last year is this is a team with confidence. You know, when you got even guys like Lorenzo Cain and some of these other pieces that they've had, and a lot of these guys have all come up and played together for a long time, and now they're starting to rack up the wins. And last year we saw it, you know, really kind of come to, hey, these guys are ready. And yeah, you know, at the beginning of the year they had all those different things with the fights and stuff like that, you know, and the benches clearing and stuff. But I think this is a team that doesn't want to get pushed around anymore. And you know what? They're the American League champs. So you know, hey, we're the top dog until somebody knocks us down. And I think that's how they're playing this year.
Wade Davis with 7 saves and Greg Holland with 7 saves, balancing out the save position. And actually, their team's batting .281 for the whole, so that'll keep you up top for a little bit of time.
And you can't go wrong with that bullpen. One of the best, if not the best in baseball.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're talking about the Minnesota Twins, another team. Back in the day, actually, Curry Puckett days were actually pretty good, but we're going back a ways now. But Minnesota actually was written off at the beginning of this year, thinking they weren't that good of a team. But you know what? They've turned some heads so far. You got Torrey Hunter, back where he belongs, batting .280, 7 home runs. Edward Nunez, batting .387. You got Joe Mauer, the aging Joe Mauer, batting with 10 doubles. And Brian Dozier, 9 home runs, 13 doubles. I mean, they're really, from an offensive standpoint, getting it done.
I think part of the reason is, you know, they got Paul Molitor as their manager now. Even though he has never managed in the major leagues before. But this guy's a winner, and this guy has some rings, and
he understands.
You know, and he understands that, you know, Minnesota, what it was like to win in Minnesota with all those great teams that they had over the years. Like you said, we talked about, you know, Puckett and Kent Herbeck and all these guys that played with Minnesota. They're a good ball club. I think Torrey Hunter helps this team. I know I was just hearing something where he was talking about the possibility of retiring after this year, but he's putting up numbers similar to what he was doing in Detroit.
He's not retiring, batting .280.
Yeah, you're not going to retire with those. No. You know, and he's still you know, his fielding skills have diminished a little bit, but he's still a guy that you can stick out in right field. And he'll do the job and get some production for you.
Yep, Glenn Perkins, their closer, 18 saves right now, leading the league. And you also have Ricky Nolasco up there liking it. He's got 5 wins so far, so watch for Minnesota. Let's go to the Detroit Tigers, sitting 3rd in the division right now. I like this Tigers roster. I mean, they did get rid of some guys, some named guys of last year that you think, well, maybe they shouldn't have got rid of. But obviously the big name that comes to mind is Miguel Cabrera, beast, having another solid year again. What can you say about him? He just does it year in and year out. Anthony Kose, .338 batting average, playing well. Raji Davis, 11 stolen bases. Jonas Cespedes, 16 doubles. Boy, I bet you Oakland's kicking themselves in the behind for getting rid of him and Boston.
Yeah.
And you got Miguel Cabrera, like I said, .333 batting average, 11 homers. I mean, this team is a balanced team, I think.
And I'm going to be biased because this has been my favorite team since I was a kid. The Detroit Tigers were always, you know, a big, like, you know, 84, Kirk Gibson, Trammell, Lou Whitaker, all those guys. And, you know, I still think the Detroit, I mean, when you really look at this division right now, I mean, Minnesota's pretty much come out of nowhere. It was pretty much where everybody thought Kansas City and Detroit were pretty much going to be the 2 teams that battle it out. Well, all of a sudden, Minnesota's crashing that party. Cabrera, you're never going to go wrong. Cabrera in a lineup is going to give you production day in and day out, and it's always going to be, you know, Cespedes was a great move, and actually that kind of helped. They lost Torrey Hunter, but they gained a Cespedes, so the additional power that Hunter didn't have, Cespedes brings that in there. They're a good ball club. Verlander is yet to pitch this year, and hopefully when he comes, he'll have the old stuff and not what we've seen the last couple of years. You know, maybe we can start seeing some glimpses of that Cy Young Award season that he had, and that would actually be a plus for this team. But the pitching staff's holding up very well. They're doing. I mean, you know, they're right there in the hunt. They're only a game out. Kansas City and Minnesota are tied, and Detroit's right in there. And I think it's going to be pretty much those 3 teams pretty much slugging it out to the end.
And the Max Scherzer loss last year doesn't seem like it bothered him so far, with Shane Green with 4 wins and David Price back on track with 4 wins. Grizzly Annie, 2.93 ERA. Actually pitching pretty well for Detroit.
Gorzolani's a guy that's been he's a guy that's been a journeyman, and who knows, he might have found a home there. Guys like him and Joba Chamberlain, who's been on the Tigers here the last couple of years now. I think those guys kind of, still the closing part is going to be the kind of the question mark for them. It's been like that for a couple of years, but if they can keep things going, they're going to be right there with everybody.
And these last two teams in the Central, to be honest with you, I think are awful. I think they're two of the worst teams in the league, but they're going to battle it out for fourth and fifth to see where they go. The Chicago White Sox, talk about a team with no direction and no where to go. J.B. Shuck batting 330, 313 is fine. Avasol Garcia 327, but you get into their designated hitter Adam LaRoche. Adam LaRoche has zero power anymore. Here's a guy who's journeyman, been around a long time. Maybe back in the day had some power, but only hitting 3 home runs. Jose Abreu's leading the team with 8 home runs. I just don't think this team's any good at all.
I think a couple things that are a guy like LaRoche, who I like. He can't hit lefties. He's kind of got that role as a DH right now. He gets on base, but the power's diminished. Abreu has not really broke out. Last year, he was he at 40 home runs last year, I believe. He hasn't really kind of blown up when other guys are already in double digits. He's sitting there with 8. There's guys like Adam Eaton who hit 300 last year as a great spark there as a leadoff hitter. He's struggling early. And their pitching staff is all over the place. Jeff Samardzija is, you don't know which Jeff Samardzija you get. Last year,
4 wins. Chris Sale struggling a little bit.
I mean, so these guys are kind of all over the place, and if they don't really get it together, they're going to be even further out. I mean, right now we're looking. They are 6.5 out now, and we're approaching the end. We're basically at the end of May. So if they get a little bit further out, you can pretty much count them that they're going to be done as far as the season goes.
Abreu on a 17-game win streak or a 17-game hit streak right now, and David Robertson only 9 saves, but he's blown 6 already. So that doesn't bode well for the White Sox bullpen. The Cleveland Indians, another team that I just think is a dreadful team. You got Michael Bourne, a shell of what he once was, batting .248. Even though he has 3 stolen bases this time, 3 years ago, he would have about 15 stolen bases. So Brandon Moss, 7 home runs, leading the team right now. Jason Kipris, 342, and Mike Aviles with 303. But like I said, from a standpoint, I think of a coaching staff too. I don't think Frangiola makes a year.
I think one of the things that I'm just noticing here, I know they're 7 games out, but they have won 7 of their last 10, which is a good sign.
Right.
But at the same time, I think this window for the Cleveland Indians closed a couple years ago.
Yep.
When they had the chance to get up there and kind of make that run. They had the 90-win season, and really was kind of a team that kind of came out of nowhere, but they really haven't done anything since that. I mean, last year, good season, but after they're the 3rd place team.
Right.
But and we're seeing that downward spiral now of the Cleveland Indians, and I don't think it's going to bode well, especially with Minnesota playing as well as they're doing right now. We knew what Kansas City and Detroit was going to be, so it's not going to be a fun ride for Cleveland. Chicago could turn it around and kind of make it interesting, but I think Cleveland's the one team that's the odd team out in this group.
I mean, you make a couple good points. I just think this team, they don't bring in anybody in the way of young people. They bring in they try to piece together guys like Nick Swisher, Michael Bourne. They don't bring any young guys up. They bring the young guys up and they drop them back down again.
But they were part of that. They were part of that team that made that run a couple of years ago. But I think
again, it's gone in reverse since.
But they're probably 2 years too late now.
Right.
It's time for them to move on and bring some other talent in.
Right. Let's talk about the American League West, which is a very interesting division out here.
Love this division.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Houston Astros first.
Yeah.
Here's a roster. If you look at this roster and you're not up on baseball, you're looking and saying, who is this college team out there? Because there are not a lot of notable names out there. I mean, you do have Kobe Rasmus out there. You do have Evan Gattis. But, I mean, for the most part, a lot of younger guys that have really getting the job done. And at the beginning of this year, I mean, I know they were written off for 4th or 5th in the division, but they've really played well for in their credit. Evan Gattis, 10 home runs. Kobe Rasmus, again, he's written off a couple of different places in the stops. 10 doubles right now, seems to have found a home in Houston. Luis Valbuena, 10 home runs. And you're looking at Jose Altuve, 10 doubles, and 299 batting average. I mean, top to bottom, Houston's getting it done.
Well, you knew Altuve was the main guy there.
Yep.
I mean, the AL batting champ. I mean, you can't go wrong there. The pickup of Gaddis, he's been off. He's a little slow. He's kind of their DH, but he's got the home runs. They knew he could hit the home runs. He's actually just got his batting average out of the 100s now. He's batting about 217. He had 3 hits last night. The guy can absolutely mash. Valbuena is an interesting. He played for the Cubs. He came over and actually at the time he was going to be fighting for a spot at third base. Guy's absolutely crushing it. They had Jake Marisnick, who they picked up from the Florida Marlins. Florida Marlins. Where am I at? We're going old school there. Miami Marlins. Jake Marisnick's another guy hitting around he was hitting around 300s and high 300s for a while, and he's kind of holding down left field, center field, there with Rasmus and stuff. These guys got it, and the big thing is also their pitching staff right now is pitching awesome. I mean, and again, this is a team kind of like the Royals. These are some of these guys have played together a little bit, all coming up together. But they might be the team. I don't know if they have enough for the whole season. I don't know if they win this division. They may slide down into a wild card. I really would like to see these guys because I think it's going to be a definite confident booster, like the Royals last year, that if they do get that sense and they can win and get in the playoffs, that I think it bodes well for them in the future.
Dallas, Keuchel, 6 wins. Luke Gregerson, 13 saves. Houston just getting it done right now by smoke and mirrors, I think. Anaheim, here's a team that was supposed to be sitting on top. They're sitting number 2, but if you look down their roster and look at what they're doing, they're a little scattered itself. You got obviously Mike Trout, 297, 11 home runs, 10 doubles. I mean, what can you say about him? Again, another solid player. You don't have to worry. Albert Pujols finding his stride a little bit with 8 home runs, finally getting on track a little bit. David Freese coming over, hitting 8 home runs, actually playing well. Eric Ibar, another surprise, 271 batting. And, from a standpoint of power in the lineup, they seem to be getting in a little bit of a groove again, Angels.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Mike Trout. I mean, clearly, if he's the best player in the game. I mean, hands down. But it's like, this is one of these teams that, it's going to be their division to win if they won. And but Trout can't do it all by himself. And but you got guys like Pujols that they're kind of on that tail end.
Yeah.
And they got a couple guys that are a little bit on that flip side there, where you got Trout, but what else you got? What are the other big pieces?
Can't do it by yourself.
And the pitching staff is kind of struggling right now. They're trying to find themselves a little bit. Weaver's not pitching the best. I think Shoemaker is he's struggling as well. So if these guys can all get it together, then I think they're gonna be the team. They're gonna be a team that's gonna be up there. I think that again, Houston is in a great position right now because while all these other teams are kind of struggling in this West, Houston's taking advantage of that. And if teams wait too long to get it together, Houston could run away with this.
The Angels, Cesar Ramos, 219 or 2.19 ERA. He's only got 2 wins though, which is kind of remarkable. Hudson Street still doing it with 14 saves.
Yeah, Houston Street is a very consistent relief pitcher. So he's doing very well.
About the Seattle Mariners, the Mariners are an interesting bunch. They started off really sluggish and looked like they were getting back to the old ways of the old Seattle Mariners, but they've actually really started to pick it up. Great addition, Nelson Cruz, 18 home runs, leading the league right now. You got Kyle Seager again, 275 batting average, playing well. Robinson Cano struggling a little bit, but starting to get into a little bit of a groove. He got 12 doubles. But Dustin Ackerley playing terrible right now, batting a 179 average.
Well, Cano's going to be a steady player. He's pretty much the core of that team. He's the leader as far as that offense goes. He'll be there, and they got off to a slow start. They're a good ball club, and again, they're a team that's kind of figuring it out. I mean, they've actually won. They've won their last 3, 7 out of the last 10. Nelson Cruz, great addition. The guy comes into Seattle and is just smashing the cover off the ball. 18 home runs
in a nice park too.
In a very nice park, and King Felix is pitching unbelievable. I know in past years, he's kind of always had that where the offense wasn't clicking, and he'd pitch a great game and then end up losing a game 1-0 or 2-1 or something like that.
Yep.
This year he's what's he got, like 8 wins now.
8
so
wins, yep.
he's he's definitely the core. Some of the other pitchers that are in there are kind of been struggling. Hopefully turn around guys like Ishikawa. I know he's been struggling, so hopefully he'll be able to turn that around, and we can see the Mariners pushing for that playoff spot, which has been a long time coming.
Exactly, and Felix Hernandez last 3 games has given up at least a home run in each of those games, which is very uncommon for him. He still has 8 wins. Fernando Rodney's 13 saves still, and you know what? He hasn't actually pitched as good as he could be with 13 saves. James Paxton's starting to come on a little bit, 3 wins. And Tom Lehrman with 1.69 ERA. That's great going for the Mariners. Let's talk about Texas Rangers. Now, the Rangers, it's funny because Josh Hamilton's just been there maybe not even a month now. He's off to a slow start, but me and Jim both think that he'll come back to what he was, and I think that he'll definitely have a good season because he's back home again. You got Delano DeShields, 11 stolen bases.
Actually, that's Junior.
I was gonna say, is he still playing? What's he, about 70?
He's about 70.
Okay, thanks for that correction, Jim. You get Shin-Shu Chu with 12 doubles right now. Prince Fielder with 10 home runs and batting a whopping 368. So he's solid for them. Adrian Beltre, 263. But this Texas team, I don't know what to say about the Texas team.
Well, I'm going to tell you, and just my opinion, I think Texas has a shot to win this division. What?
Are you kidding me?
I think they got a shot to win this division. Now listen to me here for a second. Let me talk about Prince Fielder first.
Okay.
Okay, Prince Fielder, when he was in Detroit, now of course, they made that move to Texas. They kind of traded him for Ian Kinsler, and at that time, people I was talking to were saying that Prince Fielder is going to absolutely destroy Texas. He's going to be just mashing the ball. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see that last year because he got hurt. He had the neck surgery and all that stuff. So we didn't see the Prince Fielder. Now we're seeing Prince Fielder playing for Texas, doing what people thought he was going to do, and he's doing that. 360-something batting average, 10 home runs. It helps that he's the DH. He's not playing a lot at first base, so that obviously helps. Also, you got Adrian Beltre, who's a little bit off to a slow start. This guy is going to be a Hall of Fame third baseman at age 36, 37. The guy is still one of the best third basemen defensively in the game. He's going to get that back together. And then you're going to bring Josh Hamilton back to Texas. The guy should never have left in the first place. Because I think he had some very good numbers playing for Texas. I don't think he's an MVP player. I don't think the MVP Josh Hamilton's going to be there. But he's a piece that Texas desperately needs. And I think you add him, Beltre's going to be Beltre. Prince is lights out right now, and hopefully that continues. And then Shin-Shu Chu, who's not really been very good with Texas. I think they were looking for what he did a couple years ago in Cincinnati or Cleveland, but he hasn't been that guy. Hopefully he turns it around. The pitching staff, I know it's kind of piecework with these guys, especially when they lose, like 2 or 3 of their main starting rotation. But I think these guys legitimately, I think if they believe in what they're doing, I think they're going to go in there and they're going to make some noise here in this American League West. You
got 4 guys in their pitching staff right now with just 4 wins, and Giovanni Gallardo coming over. He's been awful right now with a 4 ERA. So who knows what's going to happen with Texas? Oakland, dreadful Oakland. I just don't know what Oakland's doing. And a little side note right offhand with Oakland. 50 errors already in 48 games. I mean, that's brutal. That's absolutely brutal. You look at the roster, Josh Reddick, 308. Billy Butler not having the season they thought he was going to. A big money player to come over, 263. Ben Zobrist, another guy probably past his prime a little bit. Marcus Seaman, 9 doubles, not too bad. Steve Voigt, 319, batting well with 10 home runs. But Brett Lawrie, a lot of these guys again. We're looking at a team that's recycled again. Looking at guys that had a rejuvenated past that trying to bring in to make them fit again.
And I think with Oakland, I think the whole money ball and all that kind of stuff. I think this is what you see what happens when you go to the well too often and try to do this. I mean, yeah, you know, it's worked for so many years where they've recycled players. You're like, what are they doing? Why are they getting rid of all their good players? And then they bring in a bunch of other guys, and it just seems like they keep winning and winning. And this year, I think it's finally caught up to them. They're not a good team. They're definitely the worst team in the American League. And I'm just looking right now; they're 6-16 at home, which is clearly the worst home record in the American League. Yeah, they're not good. They're not even going to be a factor in this West. And I think if all four of these teams get hot, which I'm pretty sure Houston, Seattle, the Angels, and Texas, any four of those teams can make a serious run to win this division, and I think they're just going to whip on Oakland all season long. It's not going to be pretty for Oakland.
You got Tyler Clippard, who came over from Washington, starting to be a big splash for them. Has 4 saves right now and 6 blown saves, and you got Sonny Gray, who does have 5 wins and a 1.77 ERA, but that's it for the pitching staff. Scott Kazmir has gone south. I mean, a lot of these guys have really, really gone south. So. Yeah, really interesting about Oakland.
Sonny Gray is probably about the only bright spot that they got in Oakland, and who knows? I mean, they could be a team if there's, Billy Beane. What he could do here is there are some pieces there. If somebody wants one of these guys to make a run for their team, it could be a benefit to Oakland, and who knows what we'll see next year with the A's. They might be right back.
It might be a toilet again. So who knows? That's all the time we have for the American League breakdown today. I want to thank Jukebox Jim for coming down to break down everything. Make sure you're keeping an eye out for the National League. We're going to break that down in the next episode for you. And we also have Steve the Chief Pfeiffer coming in on location very soon to do some more antics and some more sports stuff for us. So stay tuned for that. But Jim, thanks again for coming down.
It was a pleasure here, and look forward to doing it again.
Always a pleasure in the Sports Box. Remember, the Sports Box, the only opinion that matters is right here. Thanks for watching. Take care.